Hello everyone. Welcome to another Funky Marketing show, another episode. Today I have a pleasure to talk with somebody that by following his podcast and his Twitter account and everything that he's writing about and looking at his background, it's totally look like like somebody that has the same mindset as I do and love the similar things, and especially like after seeing the visuals on his podcast, like old tapes and all the funky colors and everything. And I mean, he's a guy that has been in the industry for especially in B2B SaaS, more than I have. So like around 12 years, and somebody that has messaging, positioning, sales alignment, demand generation, content creation around his head all the time, thinks about it, and I guess that's what it takes to get to great results. So join me to welcome Brett McGrath to the Funky Marketing Show.
Neman, yeah, thank you so much for having me. I look forward to the conversation. I've been enjoying following your content. I see your face everywhere, so that means I think you're doing a good job, whether it's on Twitter, LinkedIn. You're very well connected, and I think someone who appreciates the community, and I know we're going to talk a little bit about community in this conversation, but thanks for having me.
Yeah, I think it's a lot about distribution. Yeah, that's some of the things that lots of companies are missing. You also got kind of the similar conclusion, and you also have the solution. So we're gonna talk about this as well. But tell me, why did you choose like the visuals for the podcast, which are like old school retro vibe, those things?
Yeah, so when I joined the Juice, I told our CEO I think that we needed to jump in and have a podcast right away because our platform is about curating the best content in B2B, and I wanted to curate the best content creators in B2B on the show. And so, it obviously, I don't need to explain it to you, but, it gives you the opportunity to meet people from all over the world, and, learn, create content, make those connections. And then just the artwork itself. I'm a big music guy. We were talking a little bit about Arctic Monkeys before we went live here. I've got a record collection downstairs. Music is a passion of mine. And when I think of the word curating, I always think of mixtapes. And we traded mixtapes and mix CDs in high school and even earlier in middle school. And so whenever I hear curation or it being curated, I always think of a mixtape. And I thought, what a cool way to work with design to kind of bring out that passion of mine, but also tell the story of what we're doing on the podcast. So the cassette tape, it does get a nice reaction, and I really dig it. So I think it's a kind of passion of what I'm about and just what I love in music. And then also it aligns well with what we're trying to accomplish with the show.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, same here. We just choose the old TV, and basically, like when we publish the episodes live on LinkedIn, we are basically inside the old TV frame, and like it kind of gets people emotionally connect with you, like through those retro vibes, old school things. Like people love looking back, and kind of got to emotions that are not connected necessarily to the music, to the television, whatever, but also to the people that they remember.
Yeah, 100%. I think I try to, in everything I do, I try to infuse a little bit of nostalgia in my copywriting and and design and what I'm talking about on Twitter. I think those analogies and trying to connect people back to their past. It's all about cutting through the noise, right? We're trying to earn people's attention. And I think if you can connect someone back to a previous time in their life that makes them feel something, the odds of them going in, listening to your podcast, reading your article, watching your video goes up. So I think nostalgia is a super underrated quality that I've used to cut through some of the noise. And I think could be something a lot of other marketers might use to level up and get more people reading their stuff.
Yeah, I'm seeing the same thing. Like I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, We have this thing here in Serbia when we celebrate the saints. So each house has a saint, and we call it Slava. And like I don't celebrate it, but my father was celebrating it. So I just like cook a good lunch, use some a couple of glasses of brandy or something like that just to remember him. And I posted that on LinkedIn, and I posted the video of us. We were organizing the huge summer camp in the mountains to kind of stop mountain villages from dying, and we gather all the people from the village, do the show for them, but they didn't want to go. So we took out the guitar. The guy had a guitar and started singing different songs, and it was the last summer of when my father was alive. And and I posted that video on LinkedIn, and it was one of the best performing posts over there. People, got attached to it. Like, I gotta go and call my dad. Like, Nemanja, my dad says hi, or like, I gotta go and sing something with the friends, or like, kind of. It doesn't necessarily the content needs to be related to the business. Sometimes we can go and, have one post that is totally out of everything and just brings you in emotionally with your audience.
I think with that and what you were just describing, and I was hanging on every word you were saying, is that it drives story and narrative, and people get sucked into stories. You can stand up in the US, everyone's going to Thanksgiving tomorrow. They'll be visiting their loved ones, and people will be in those rooms. They'll be cooking, and people will see family members they haven't seen in a long time. Inevitably, we'll all have stories, and we're all storytellers in that setting, and we all have everyone's attention, and we laugh, we cry, we comment. And I think just in marketing in B2B, something that might seem sterile at time and might seem boring at time, like there's so much opportunity to inject excitement and inject nostalgia, inject narrative and stories into the work that we do. And I think brands and people who are doing that right now are cutting through a lot of noise and earning that attention of the audience members quicker.
Yeah, but I mean that's what brought me to B2B, working with B2C companies and seeing that B2B everything is foggy, mystic, no people, no personalities, only features, everybody talking about themselves. And then you go and you do something differently. And like I want to see like the New Year commercials the way Coca-Cola does them in B2B. Like that's kind of what we need to see. It won't happen soon, but it's already there. People started to take a different approach.
100%. Yeah, I think a lot of people want to infuse B2C with B2B, which is cool. Like, we should gain inspiration from other areas. I'm looking for the B2B companies who do some of that, but then start helping us drive B2B into a place where we go to be entertained and be educated. And I know we're going to talk a lot about it, but that's what I'm finding in the modern day marketer and the individual who I believe is the catalyst for change in B2B. They're doing those things. And part of what I'm trying to do with my show, my platform, and At the Juice is elevate those people up and say, hey, you don't need to do things like we've done it 5 to 10 years ago. Like, look at what these people are doing. They're building brand, they're earning trust, and they're doing it in a different way. So I think the opportunities are endless in B2B.
Yeah, I totally agree. So tell us a little bit about, you mentioned modern day marketeer, and you kind of, that was kind of how you defined, the hero of your story over there in Juice. So what's a modern day marketer? It's a like flashy name to say, but how did you come up with that, and what it actually means? I know that you are doing things a little bit differently. So like, no ICP, but you define it a little bit differently, and tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I really view it as a journey and an exploration, and it started with the 3C podcast. And I first, before I started the podcast, I started having these conversations with individuals because it had been a while since I'd been in the MarTech space. I started there, worked in a bunch of different verticals, and I came back and I realized things were a lot different than when I had left it. And so I'd have these conversations, and I realized, wow, like these individuals are going about gaining attention, earning trust a lot different than when I left this space. And so that's when I kind of took a step back and I said, well, this is pretty powerful. I think we should start sharing these stories because I'm learning a ton with the audience that we're trying to develop. So throughout this process of doing the podcast, meeting modern day marketers from all over the world, um, it wasn't the modern day marketer from the beginning, but it formed over a period of time. And so I view the modern day marketer as the individual who is the catalyst for change in B2B marketing. It is the individual that doesn't necessarily need to be the VP or the CMO. It can be the individual contributor who walks into their organization and teams are doing things the old way or the way I grew up doing B2B marketing and are questioning it and saying, well, why are we putting forms in front of this? Like, shouldn't we make our content more accessible? And so I think what I'm trying to do is elevate those individuals, tell their story and inspire others, because I think there's just so much opportunity for all of us collectively as a community to think a little bit outside the box and think about how we want to be reached as consumers. And so part of what I'm trying to do, and I started it out, and now I'm hitting this drum of the modern day marketer, and I started to feel something, then started to gain some momentum, and I was just I've been in conversations with our team and said, hey, this is what we're going to be talking about going into 2022 and beyond. How can we begin to infuse this not only with what I'm saying in marketing, but how can we infuse this with our sales team, with our customer success team? How do we bring this to product? So yeah, it would have never have happened if I didn't reach out to strangers, ask to learn from them, create content with them, and do that habitually. And the more I've done that, the more confident I've got at this is our hero. This is the person that we want to collaborate with, partner with. We want them to be our customer. And so the more I lean into it, the stronger conviction I get.
Yeah, sounds good. Sounds good. I recognize myself in what you were saying because, like, funky marketing. We started it like being different, all the things that we mentioned before, but also getting marketing back where it belongs, where it cares about ethics, about relationship, those kind of things, and like also by talking with people, but working with customers, with clients. Like one thing that stood out is relationships. So that's why, like, last week we rebranded the website and the messaging to focus on relationship centric marketing, and kind of also like we have this thing. Still need to figure it out how we're gonna go with it this year, like funky marketing top voices, which, and now listening to you, I realize like that's the modern day marketers. Like all the people on the list, those are the people that we can define as modern day marketers.
What 100%. And so I think you're going about it the right way. I think for me, at its core, it is this elevation of the brand marketer and the elevation of brand front and center. And I say this a lot, and I'm not trying to throw shade on demand generation. I spent the front half of my career in demand gen. I've worked the back half of my career in content and brand, and I just think we have this B2B. It's this, we have this transactional mindset and these systems that have been put in place for so long. That is, okay, we do this campaign, it generates this many leads goes over to sales teams. These leads convert. And I think, and then we're trying to let's track all the attribution and let's do this again so it becomes repeatable. And all of a sudden we start operating like robots. And I think really resonates. And what matters is that when we are able to provide consistent value and try new things, think outside the box. And I think when I think of the modern day marketer, I don't ever want to discount demand gen. I think demand gen is a function that is a necessity within the space we operate in. I do see demand gen operators, like those that are having the most success, are the ones that are thinking more like a modern day marketer, or maybe fusing some brand marketing into what they're doing. So yeah, I'm very optimistic that the lines are blurring in between brand and demand, and the more I see it, the more excited I get.
Yeah, that's kind of my view as well, and like more. As demand gen is becoming the buzzword these days, more and more positions are opening up, more people are talking about it. Like that's why we decided to go and say we do relationship centric marketing. Just to talk about those things in a different way. Because, like, to be honest, like having demand gen on our website, uh, companies that started to reach out to us were the ones that just wanted to do ads. Like, and that's only a part of what demand gen should do. There's organic part, there's brand part, there are lots of stuff over there that should be happening. Like back in the days it was only like SEO. We do the SEO. Now it seems like it's only like advertising. Okay, we have this team inside the company, we produce the content, we will pay you to kind of do the distribution through ads. But like they don't think about the distribution through other channels, communities, those kind of, because you cannot do that with ads. And it's much bigger picture. So I was like same thinking as you were, like, let's go and talk about it, let's give people different examples, different points of view, and let's get them more educated about what it all means.
Yeah, I think I love the branding on the relationship or the positioning on relationship marketing. And I think just if I put on my demand gen hat, 5 to 7 years ago as just the demand gen individual contributor, I wish I would have seen where it was going, and I wish I would have spent more time trying to think kind of like a salesperson in a way, where I would be reaching out, researching, finding the right people who align with the message that my company does. Because I think that's where demand generation is going. It's finding the people who align with your values. It's finding the people who align with your message. It's having a show, having a podcast, having a YouTube show, and it's collaborating with them. It's building relationships. And yes, there's a artifact at the end of it where you have this episode that then you can promote and your guests can promote, and you get access to their audience. But that's the start of the relationship. That there's so much more than that. And I think throughout this journey of the 3C podcast, I was like, took a step back, and I was like, man, like, we've recorded with over 50 people that I did not know going into this year. That's crazy. Now, I don't want to, I want to make sure I nurture those relationships. So going into next year, what are the things that I can do to tap back into that audience and do cool stuff that's going to stand out? And so I love that relationship marketing, and it's counter to the mainstream thinking in B2B, which in turn is very transactional, like that ad story you said, like, let's pay someone a bunch of money, let's put up these ads and hope we get leads. Like, that's just not the way, that's not going to be sustainable, and that's just not the way B2B is moving.
Exactly. So one of the most important things in creating relationships is transparency. You talked about it on the podcast, and this is the topic that you talk a lot about. So I want to ask you, what do you consider as being transparent? Like, it can mean a lot of stuff. So I want to just kind of get your thoughts around it.
Yeah, so I think when you have a vehicle like a podcast, a blog, it gives you the opportunity to make a connection with your audience and get them to understand who you are as an individual. And I think you can see it today. You look at all these B2B brands, and they've got Twitter accounts, and then they've got the individual at the company who is their evangelist, who has 10x more followers than their brand does. And so I think the rise of the individual is happening right now. People want to hear from people. People don't necessarily want to hear as much from brands. And so with that at the center, I think it gives the individual creator the opportunity to be real and authentic, and think and communicate with their audience like you are a friend or someone who they want to make a connection with. And that's what I try to do. What I try to do at the Juice is I try to take anyone who is in our audience, I try to give them a peek behind the curtain at what we're building, how we're thinking, what's good, what's bad, what we failed in. And I try to do this through stories. I do this with the blog posts. I do this with our podcast, the Blend, which is our newsletter that we put out every week. And the more I lean into being a real person, I had a daughter. We had a daughter. Tomorrow she'll be 7 weeks old. She's changed my life. It's amazing. And I wanted to let the audience know that, like, yes, I have a baby on the way. I'm going to be out of commission for a little bit. My team is going to take over these areas. And then when the baby was born, I wanted to share a picture of her to the audience and say, hey, look how I'm a proud dad. And this is marketing's important, but like my life has changed. This is way more important. And I just want to be real with people. And I feel like the more real and authentic I am, whether it's the good or the bad, the stronger the connection is on the other side. And I've learned to do this because I put myself in the shoes of the content consumer. And for me, it's like those are the people I want to follow. Those are the people I want to hear from. The people that have built trust with me are the people who are letting me know what music they listen to, letting me know that when their wife's asleep, what they watch on Netflix, like those kind of stuff. Like that's just being real, and that's what I appreciate. So that's what I'm trying to do. And I also will say, when I joined the Juice, our CEO, Jonathan Gandalf, was very big in this idea and this trend of building in public. And it was one of the reasons why I joined the Juice is because I'd have the opportunity to be myself and lean into crazy ideas and honesty. And so I think from the top down here at the Juice, that's something that I've been really proud to work here, is just everyone's openness and honesty. And I think it translates from our internal conversations out, and I can feel the momentum around it on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, because like people often forget that social media is just like extension of what's happening inside the company. Because I work a lot with companies and create sort of a hub inside the company, which then goes out on LinkedIn or on other channels, and it won't happen if there isn't collaboration, support, and trust inside the company. So when you have that, then the content creation becomes much easier, and because you trust in, that you will get the feedback even before you go and post something, or to have the freedom to talk about certain topics, or those kind of stuff. So maybe we can go into a little bit into some hints of how can people actually create great content. There are lots of advice around there, like you do this to create content, you do this, but what are a couple of things that they can do to create content which is not like average, but a little bit above that?
So, at the simplest form, my recommendation to anyone would be write for people, don't write for machines. And I think we have gotten so used to thinking about the keywords that we want to stuff in the blog post and how we want to make Google react to what we write. We've lost sight of telling stories, being honest, and driving narrative and being real. And so I think I would start there. I love writing. I think writing is the most powerful tool that we have in marketing. And I would say if you're a marketer, a team of one or a team of several, I would always get into the habit of writing every week. Write every day if you can. Don't if you elevate your career, you can bring on new writers, but always make sure that you're getting involved in the process, because I think that there's so many that's such a rich skill that can help elevate the brand that you're building. So that would be my strongest recommendation in terms of content creation. The other one would be making sure you're not just doing it yourself. You alluded to individuals within organizations buying in and enjoying content. And I think the role of the content marketer, one of the most important traits is being a content facilitator. And that's not only externally, that's internally. But when you have your people bought into your content and what you're building and designing, they want to be a part of it. And you need to, as a content creator, you need to empower them and make sure that they can share their voice that aligns with the story that you're trying to tell. And I think that's always an indicator for me. It's like when people raise their hand and say, hey, like I've got a take and an idea on what you're riffing on over here, and I'd love to create this article on it. Like, to me, that's always like a benchmark of success as a content marketer when other people want to get involved. So like 2 recommendations in terms of great, and that goes externally too. That goes what we just talked about with collaboration, putting on your sales hat. And I don't mean like selling them, like sell them your software. I mean, just like operate like a salesperson, a business developer would do, doing the research, making sure you're sending a message that resonates and you're getting those people. And don't try. It's a process. Make sure you manage that process, and if you do it in a way that people trust you, you're going to be able to maximize that relationship for a while and create really good content. So those are the two: write for people, not machines, and make sure that you are putting on your content facilitator hat too, and not just a content creator. And I think the more I've done that, I feel like it's up-leveled the content that I'm building.
Yeah, you just reminded me of a message I got last night on LinkedIn from a guy I just connected with. And it's like, I usually reach out to people, after 2 or 3 weeks when they consume the content. And I say, just wanted to say hi, drop a line and say hi, and then start the conversation. I don't have other aspiration. If it happens, something, okay. But the guy asked me, so Nemanja, what are we doing here? Are you selling me? Am I selling to you? Are we selling to somebody together? Or we are just arranging sex? And I was like, okay, I have all the options here. I can choose.
I love it. I love the straight to the point. I love that.
Yeah, and then when he learned why, then he asked why me. So I told him, I connect with people that I think have something to say, and then I can learn something from them maybe. And he's like, okay, I love the sensibility, I love everything. Let's continue chatting. And those kind of things. When you run to those kind of people, then it's kind of easier to start a relationship and really get going into the things. I used to have this. I was sending messages. I used to have this explanation, because the company is named Funky Marketing, and I can just say I love GTA, I love Marvin Gaye, I love 70s, those kind of stuff, and then people react to it. There's nobody that won't react to the music, to those kind of stuff.
And just being relatable, like that makes you a real person. And when you said Marvin Gaye, immediately in my head, I started to hear Sexual Healing in my head. I heard Marvin Gaye, Sexual Healing. And now I'm going to associate you with Marvin Gaye, and Marvin Gaye's a great artist. So I think that's I love that. I love that story. And I think just be real, like take chances. You're taking a chance. You're not trying to be buttoned up, but it aligns with your brand, right? Funky marketing. Like you want people to think a little bit different about you. So I think kind of the punchline of that is just take some chances and just be yourself. If people don't want to work with you, move on to the next person.
Yeah, and look, like I don't know if you do that. I often ask people, like, who would you relate your brand to if that person enters the door? And that's where I came up thinking about the answer. That's where I came up with Marvin Gaye, but Marvin Gaye in a specific situation, like when he sang the national anthem in the halftime of the All-Star game. There's a huge article on that topic with the video and everything. But he wasn't the first choice. Like somebody else was. He was already washed, as they call him. He came out of the bad situation and everything. But he came up. He wear the glasses on the wrong side, like how is it called? The picture, the branding was on the other side. He didn't know it or didn't care, and just started singing in his own voice. And like there are messages from Pat Riley, from all the people that were there on the game. Like we didn't know what to expect. We didn't expect anything. It was Marvin Gaye, and he sang the anthem in his way, totally like that. And that's how I see the funky marketing. So that's why I had this,
I can appreciate that. I need to go. I know what you're talking. I need to go back on and find that on YouTube after we get done and watch it.
Yeah, it's a nice thing. I mean, it all came through through my father, who was listening to that music and having it all and playing basketball and all the other stuff. It also gets us back, as we were mentioned, to things that we inherited from the past. And tell me something. We talked about the hero, the journey, the transparency, the content creation. So tell me a little bit about how you think about content distribution. So it's a huge topic, and you can do it in a lot of different ways. But in most of the time, companies, when they think about it, they think, oh, we need to do something manually, so we just won't do it.
Yeah, so I think content distribution is the number one opportunity right now in B2B marketing, and I also can say from my personal use case, it's the number one topic that other marketers want to talk with me about. The opportunity is no one has it mastered, no one has it figured out, and I think it varies from company to company. And and I was saying this internally the other day. It reminds me a lot of when like account-based marketing came on, where there was account-based marketing companies that supported it, and some people just thought, okay, well, I need to go to these account-based marketing companies and get a solution, and then I can start doing account-based marketing. When in fact, the solution helps support your account-based marketing program, but you don't need one to get started. And I view that very similarly in the same lines as content distribution.
Yes.
And so I think it is we've spent so much time being this content factory where it's like, all right, we're going to write for machines because we know Google loves our blog posts at 8 a.m. every Tuesday, and we're going to write because we want them to read our keywords, and we want that to be consistent because we want placement. And then it's just we're not even thinking, we're just writing, and boom, 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 just there it goes. And we don't take a step back and be like, all right, how can I maximize this content? How can I get in front of the right people? And I think what content distribution does, and I think the modern day marketer is thinking very diligently about content distribution, it allows the creator to take a step back and figure out, okay, what can I do? Like, what is my, like, if I've created this, like, what's my scouting report on how to get this to the right people at the right time? And that's where I really think there is manual work to it. I talk to my team and I say, I let them know about, because that's a place we play in at the Juice. I think we have an audience, we're distributing content. I believe we can do even more. And so I tell them it takes me so much time every day when I publish a new piece and go through the process of writing different copy for every different channel. And it's not all the same, and it's not cookie cutter, because I think that would be the same as kind of your batch and blast, and it would fall on deaf ears. But I think the modern day marketers who are taking the time to customize what they're doing for each channel and finding new channels are the ones that are winning. And that's where I think like communities play such a big role. Like for me, it's like Superpath. Jimmy Daly has one of the most amazing content marketing groups out there. And just listening and hearing and finding opportunities to be like, you know what, like you're struggling with that. I actually just wrote this article, or I just had this podcast guest on, like they went deep in this area. Let me share it with you. Like there's so much opportunity to just get deep and build relationships in communities. So I am by no means, I would say I'm surprised in a way about how curious the community is about this. And I think there are examples of people that are doing it, like pushing it, leaning into it. But I think there's just so much more runway and opportunity to think more strategically about how we distribute content. And I think that's where the Juice can play in, and we can fit in there in that content distribution category that is not even, it's forming. But yeah, I think it just takes work, right? And people want immediate results, and people want to know that their posts that they put out in a community led to this many visitors and led to this many leads, when you should just be like, all right, I'm showing up here, I'm adding value, and people are coming our way, people are subscribing to our newsletter and that sort of thing. So opportunities are endless. I'm excited about the amount of people that want to think more about it. And I think just with my show, with what we're doing at the Juice in terms of the content we're creating, it's a topic that I certainly will be talking more about. And what I'll be doing is pulling in those people who I think are doing it well, so I can learn from them, and in turn our audience can learn from them too.
Yeah, that's the most important part. Like you should think about distribution even before you start creating the content. And it is, and also like what you said, the last is, like including people not only in creating content, but also into the distribution. Because when you create it together, then you will distribute it together. And and this is how you get additional set of hands to to help you out in that. Just by planning it out and by creating the relationship and connection with people.
100%. I love what you say, and I agree. And I still need to do this. I still need to do a better job of thinking about where you want to put it before you start creating it. And so I'm self-managing myself regularly because I'm taking a look at myself in the mirror and I'm saying, hey, I'm talking about this. I'm trying to say we need to do this better. And then I'm sitting on the other side of it and I'm doing things the old way. So, by no means when I say modern day marketer, do I think everyone is at this level where they're doing all of these things and they're winning in a way. It's an evolution. Like there are certain traits that we all have as modern day marketers that we're really good at and others that we're working on getting better at. And so distribution is one of them personally for me. And the more I lean into it, the more better results I get and the more excited I am about just the future of it.
Yeah, actually, that was the first. Well, yeah, actually, it became an article. I recorded the video where I created the graph of how I'm distributing the content. At the time, we had two podcasts, a blog, and what it was the third one, no idea, but it was four content pillars. And how we distributed the main pieces, how we actually cut them out in short pieces and distribute them, and it was organic ads and everything. And that's the first article ever I think I wrote for the Funky Marketing blog. Just by showing how I'm doing things, and it blew up. I got invited to talk about on a different podcasts because like people were like, "Man, you really go into the details and talk about these things." But that's what I've been doing my whole life. That's comes naturally, and that's why I ask you about how did you come up with those ideas, because I think like it's value first, but you need to explain what the value is. I think lots of people in companies just go around and throw it like, hey, value first, those kind of things. Because when you actually provide people with useful things, the money will follow. It's not the other way around.
100%. And I think a trait of the modern day marketer that relates to this, that we're actually putting out a collaborative piece next week on this. So be on the lookout, everyone tuning in here. But this quality versus quantity game, like so much of what we've been born into B2B marketing is all about volume, and we need more leads. We need more of this. For me, it's let's take a step back and let's service and add value to fewer but higher quality. And what are the ways that we can do that? And I think the more we've leaned into nurturing our existing audience as opposed to trying to reach as many people as possible, the better our marketing has gotten. And what I did was I collaborated with I think 12 or 14, I can't remember this morning. I haven't had enough coffee. 12 or 14 contributors who believe in this, that the quantity game is dying a slow death. And I asked them, hey, can you just write a little bit about why you're focused in on quality over quantity? And I'm putting all of those pieces together in one deliverable, and it's going to be launched next week. And I'm really excited about it. So I think if you are someone who is interested in thinking more or wanting to educate your team on why you should be thinking more about quality than quantity, I think the piece is going to be really good. It's going to be on our app, and which is free to sign up, and it'll also be on our blog, so you can check it out.
Sounds good. Now, what I want to ask you about, because you're in a lot of communities and leverage them well, I kind of, am inside different communities, but like I have this thing that when everything is in Slack, I just disconnect after 2 weeks or something like that, and I may never enter it. Again, I don't know why, but sometimes it's happened. Here are some people that we have in the comments: Kali, Mark, Daniel saying hi and saying that Brett knows things. Uh, but and to give you kind of the head start, it was interesting. Sangram Vajre from Peak Communities. We connected on LinkedIn, and it was interesting the way he approached me and the way we had a conversation, because he was like, I'm the co-host of the Community for Marketers by Marketers. The goal is to grow like 1% each week together, and I'd love for you to join. So like the first thing I asked him, is it on Slack? He said no. I said, thank God, that can work.
Yeah. So I think for me, yes, communities are. It's like with anything, you've got to put in the time and the effort. And yes, where it's hosted is it's gonna resonate with some people. Other people no. For me, Peak. I'm a member. I'm a member of Peak. Shout out Sangram. If you're out there, go sign up for Peak. Read his book too. There are a couple plugs for you, Sangram. But so Peak is on its own network, and then you've got I mentioned Superpath, which is a Slack group. To me, it just takes time. And what I've done is early on I started to block off my calendar half hour each day, and that half hour each day was community time, and it was time. I wasn't necessarily publishing, but it was time where I was going into these communities and I was listening, I was engaging, and I was building and developing relationships. And I did that because I was learning. And then also too, I was finding my next podcast guest through this, finding out who aligned with my values and our company's values. So I think it takes time, it takes energy, it takes effort. There's no like community 101 playbook. It's just, you gotta put in the effort. And I promise you, like, the Modern Day Marketer is community driven, sharing content, building relationships through these channels. And I think there's so much more opportunity in finding the right people for your brand by being in communities. Because I mentioned this before, the rise of the individual creator. People want to buy from people and not companies. What better way to start a sales process? And I'm not advocating for going to communities and sell, but I am advocating for build relationships, record podcasts, collaborate on content, stay connected, and eventually the person that you build a relationship with might have a problem that your product solves, and who are they going to think of first? They're going to reach out to you, and then you're going to go make sure you're going to shepherd them into your organization, make sure they talk to the right people and that sort of thing. So I just think like the opportunities of learning, connecting, sharing ideas, like it's endless once you jump headfirst in the right community for you.
Yeah, it sounds like everything I do on LinkedIn, I just need to do the same inside the communities. so just book the time and stop being lazy and stop making excuses for it.
Yes, that's what's worked for me.
And also what you said is important, because the way people buy today, even in B2B, has changed. Like they ask inside the communities, or they see who's recommending things, or they ask people, or they ask like family, someone who's totally offline. You cannot follow, like we talk a lot about these days about dark funnel. That's the dark funnel. And to be able to leverage that, you got to be in those communities when those people are, and actually do what you said. So engage with people, create relationships, and you don't need to start from offering something that you have for them to buy.
What? Totally. And I think what I noticed in communities that resonated with what we were doing right out of the gates was that this idea of like frictionless content, and how people weren't putting obstacles in front of their content. They were just sharing it in these groups. And I was, within my first 2 weeks of starting at the Juice, people were DMing me on Twitter, news articles and new things. And I was getting text messages from old coworkers with content pieces. And I was like, man, like, this makes so much sense, because if I have something that I'm learning from and I want to share, what am I going to do? Like, I'm going to text my friends, I'm going to Slack them. And I think just this, there's so much sharing that's going on that you as a business or a company don't even know about, but you need to optimize for that. Like if you're not optimizing for that sharing, and you're putting roadblocks in front of your content, then someone's going to go learn from someone else and move on to the next one. Like, things happen so quick. And I just think that's the cool part about communities, is that I've gotten to know so many more companies because I meet their marketers and I consume their content because we have a relationship. And I'm not filling out any forums. I'm not getting hammered by any salespeople. I'm just learning and building those relationships. And I think that's an opportunity with communities.
Yeah. I mean, an example, when I first started working in a marketing agency, like I needed to learn a lot. I knew some things, but I needed to learn a lot. So, and I also had another job because it wasn't a high-paying job when I started in an agency. And basically, I was too tired to sleep, so I was just listening videos and also like reading things. Sometimes at the same time, while working things, and I was sharing everything inside the company Slack. And I was sharing so many things and doing so many things that like in 13 months I went from being a rookie to being the first GM of the company that has like 15 people. And just because those guys say like we never had a GM, but if Nemanja is the first guy that came to the company that we think is capable of doing that, because the guy is crazy. Because I was sharing that while I was on vacation. I work 5 hours a day. 5 hours a day, I was organizing summer camps, and I was sharing and then like, this guy is crazy. Look how much he's sharing. Look how the things he's sharing are evolving. So, and he's including everybody inside that. So let's just give him the company. And just wanted to share this. So like, it's not something that you cannot do inside the community, inside your own company, or just on any other platform.
100%. No, I love that story. It's what I found is just leaning into doing things different and doing things counter to the status quo typically will generate some sort of response. Will it be positive? Will it be negative? That's up for interpretation. But I think that's how I've always tried to approach the work that I do, is just look at what's happening and kind of go the other direction, because there's products are commodities. Everyone's doing the same stuff. Everyone's, got their hot takes on LinkedIn and everyone wants to share. And that's cool. Like, that's what everyone's doing. It's like, what can we do to go the other direction, get people's attention, and inspire a little bit of change? So I love that. And I think I encourage anybody who's listening or watching to kind of defy the status quo a little bit and go the other direction and see what happens.
Yeah, and one thing I will say, if you want to learn how to distribute the content differently and to communicate differently, go to Reddit. Like, there are tons of subreddits, and all of them are different. Some of them just want you to post link. Some of them don't want you to post link at all. Some of them just want you to have a few sentences about what you are posting. Some of them don't allow you to post anything. You need to actually get into the response, and when you get to the certain point, then you can post. So you will develop yourself to the moment when, well, I can do so many things and I can do them in a different way. But tell me one thing that we didn't mention, or something that's on your mind, because we are coming to the end of the episodes. What's something that you want people to take away from this episode?
Yeah, I think for me would be, if you are working with inside of a marketing team or organization that is doing things the old way and running, the old playbook that got someone's boss's boss promoted, and that's what you're doing regularly, like, and it doesn't feel right. It feels like you're trying to make your audience jump through hoops, catch them in traps, generate leads, that sort of thing, and you're operating inside of this team. Like, don't be scared to have a conversation with your manager and your manager's manager about why you think you should start doing things a little differently. I think that's the inspiration that I have in trying to elevate these voices with the Modern Day Marketer on the 3C podcast, is that there, regardless of role, regardless of experience, there are some really incredible changes happening within these teams because the individual contributor is fed up with it and it says we should do things the other way because I'm learning how to better operate in these communities. I'm learning on Twitter. Like, don't be scared, regardless of your role, to have the conversation internally about implementing the change. And if you're able to do, like, if your manager or your manager's manager doesn't want to hear it, then you might not be working at the right place. So that's what my encouragement would be, is just don't be scared to have those conversations internally. It takes us all to make this community and industry better. And there's just so much runway and opportunity. So that would be my advice. And I'd hope anyone listening would that'd be the primary takeaway.
Sounds good. I love that. And I don't have anything to add. I would just say, guys, connect with Brett on LinkedIn, on Twitter. Go ahead, subscribe to their newsletter, follow the podcast. I've been listening to it for the couple of weeks, and you guys really get deep on some of the topics. And I love that because, I can just sit down, don't do anything, and listen to you nerd out about things. And Brett, thank you very much for taking time and being here on the show. I'm sure this is not the last episode we're going to record together.
I need to get you on our podcast. This is a collaboration. We need to get you offline. We'll figure out a good time to record in, because I love like-minded people, and I know you have a ton of ideas and have enjoyed following your stuff. So we'll set that up.
Yeah, for sure. You guys, the only thing that I can say is keep it funky as always.
Keep it funky.